Ladies and gentlemen, something deeply disturbing just happened on both sides of the border, and nobody's talking about how these stories might actually be connected. So in Canada, we got Prime Minister Mark Carney. He just pulled off one of the most shameful betrayals in modern political history. He lied to the people, he campaigned on standing up to President Trump, and then in secret, he repealed nearly every retaliatory tariff on American goods. 2 weeks before the election, not after, before. And just after that betrayal exploded, the United States was rocked with yet another bombshell. Former President Joe Biden was suddenly diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. And this is not early stage. This is not new, but aggressively metastasized and most likely present during his entire time in office. Now, what were we told? Oh, Joe Biden's fine. His health is fine. He's sharp as a tack, right? Comment down below if you think that Joe Biden actually had cancer while he was president and basically lied to us while he was campaigning. Let me know, guys. Let me know if you think, just type in lie if you think it was a lie, or type in Biden lied if you think he lied. Anyway, so here's the twist. Some experts are now saying that the cancer diagnosis couldn't have been known for years. Couldn't have been known for years. Why is that, right? And that its sudden release might have been timed to distract from something even much darker. Kind of like the fallout from her tapes, Biden's mental decline, and yes, even the Carney betrayal just north of the border. So now people are asking, was this all just a coincidence, or was it a coordinated cover-up by elite insiders to manage a crumbling narrative? Well, guys, in the next couple of minutes, I want to share with you guys the exact moment that Carney sold out Canada and how both conservative and progressive voters are now turning on him. Shout out to my Canadian brothers and sisters up north. If you're from Canada, just let me know in the comments down below. Just type in Canada. So we need to talk about the shocking timeline of Biden's illness, really what the White House physician covered up, and why medical experts are calling this an intentional deception, how Alberta is now threatening to secede from Canada altogether, and the one thing that President Trump did that has all of these leaders panicking behind closed doors. Guys, this story, it's not just about two countries. It's about the end of the globalist illusion and the beginning of something even bigger than that. So do not go anywhere, guys. If you appreciate the updates, destroy the like button. Don't smash the like button. Destroy the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get started right at the heart of this, guys. Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada, he didn't just break a campaign promise. This is horrible what he did, really. I mean, he betrayed the entire country of Canada before the people even had a chance to vote. I mean, like, while millions of Canadians were out there campaigning, donating their hard-earned money, and voting under the belief that Carney would stand firm against Trump's trade pressure, he was already on his knees behind closed doors. That almost sounded really gross. Don't try to picture that. Anyway, on April 16th, 2025, guys, just 2 weeks before Canada's national election, Mark Carney secretly repealed nearly every retaliatory tariff on U.S. goods. These were the very tariffs he claimed that he would defend, right? But he didn't just backtrack. He just flat out lied. No public announcement, no press conference, just a quiet surrender, hidden from voters until it was too late. And in the worst part, his betrayal wasn't just policy, it was political fraud. Carney campaigned on standing up to Trump, using this tough rhetoric and nationalistic pride to galvanize support. But in reality, he already folded before a single ballot was even cast. Now, I want you to imagine voting for someone who promised to protect your country's economy, only to find out days later that he already gave it away. Think about that, guys. Think about how many people are pissed. And like I said, I don't know how many Canadians are watching the show right now, and I sure hope that you guys show me some love in the comments down below. Let me know you're here. But this is why both sides of the political spectrum in Canada, left and right, are absolutely furious. Conservatives already didn't trust Carney for his radically progressive globalistic policies, but this confirmed everything that they feared of this guy. He's not loyal to Canadians. He's loyal to elite international interests. And progressives, the ones who backed him because they believed that he would actually take a stance against Trump, they feel duped right now. They feel betrayed, lied to, used. One liberal voter was quoted saying, "We didn't vote for Carney because we liked the guy. We voted for him because he said that he would fight Trump." And now it turns out he was never even in the ring. I can't make this stuff up here, guys. So here's the kicker. This scandal didn't even have time to fully explode before another massive story suddenly dominated the headlines in the United States. A story that would shift the media narrative away from Carney's betrayal entirely. And that's where things start to feel a little bit too convenient. But before I go there, guys, guys, let me just share with you guys just how deep the fallout from Carney's betrayal is, because it's threatening to tear Canada apart. Now, I'm going to tell you why Alberta is now on the verge of secession and why its premier flew to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump right in the middle of this whole big mess. All right. You feel like the system left you behind? You're not alone. I got this comment the other day on a previous YouTube video. It said, I had no coverage for drugs, no copays after they cut me off Medicaid. I called Chapter. We talked for a long time. They found me a plan where my meds were zero, my Medicare premium was zero, and copays went from $89.50 down to just $20. That right there, guys, that's what real help looks like. Chapter was built for people just like you, people that the system forgot. Their advisors, they walk you through every plan, double check your doctors, they make sure that no benefit gets missed. And guys, this is not just insurance, this is protection. Give our friends a call at Chapter at 909-563-8279, or better yet, hit them up on the web, askchapter.org/Ron. I'll leave a link for you guys in the description down below so that you can just click the link. It's easy. It takes a few seconds, and what I like is that you're not invisible, guys. Not with Chapter. You got options, and Chapter is going to share those with you. So now, if you thought Carney's betrayal was just a political scandal, no, think again, okay? This is shaping up to be a national crisis, and Alberta might be first to walk away from Canada entirely. Now, if you happen to be from Alberta, let me know if you would be okay in becoming, let me know if you're from Alberta and you would be okay breaking away from Canada and becoming the 51st state of the United States. I'd love to hear from you guys. I want to know how Canadians feel about this, because Alberta isn't just another province. It is the economic engine of the country, and they're producing like 90% of Canada's energy. They're racking up the highest GDP of any province, over $334 billion a year. And yet, despite being the backbone of Canadian economy, Alberta has been under relentless attack from Carney's anti-energy globalist climate agenda. So when the news dropped that Carney had surrendered to Trump's tariffs in secret and then lied about it to the entire country, this was the final straw. Polls now are showing that over 35% of Albertans want to secede from Canada. This is not fringe. That's 1 in 3 people saying, look, we're freaking done. And the momentum's only growing. But here's where it gets even more intense, because Alberta's premier, Danielle Smith, isn't just venting frustration on social media. She flew to Florida. She went directly to Mar-a-Lago. Who's in Mar-a-Lago? Oh, well, then she sat down privately with President Donald J. Trump. Let that sink in for a second, guys. While the sitting Canadian Prime Minister was secretly caving to Trump behind closed doors, Alberta's top official has been shaking hands with him in Florida. Now you got to ask yourself, why? What was talked about? Was Alberta laying the groundwork for independence? Is Trump already negotiating with breakaway provinces like a globalist strategist pulling strings behind the scenes? No one in the media wants to touch that question, but I will. Because right after that quiet meeting, everything started to change. Carney's lies unraveled, Alberta's outrage exploded, and then suddenly a major distraction story out of the US just so happened to dominate every headline. Here's a big question. Why was the sudden announcement of Biden's terminal diagnosis timed to distract from the chaos going on in Canada and from the elite lies unspooling across both countries? Because what you're about to hear about Biden's stage 4 aggressive cancer, the timing of her tapes and the media's convenient silence, it's going to leave you speechless, guys. So yeah, while Canada was reeling from Carney's betrayal, something else was quietly building in the United States. And let me tell you, this is a story that's just so big, it's so emotional that, it even threatened to erase every headline overnight. Now, just days after the Carney scandal broke, the White House revealed that former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, and that the cancer had already spread to his bones. Now, this wasn't some early detection. This was terminal. This is advanced, and medically speaking, it's impossible to miss in a sitting president. And the timing, guys, couldn't have been any more strategic. Why now? Why release this news only after her audio tapes were made public, where Biden's mental decline was fully exposed? A new book dropped detailing how his cognitive lapses were hidden from the public. According to some people in the media, this cancer news was a moment of empathy, a reason to pause criticism, take a breath, and let Biden heal. Now, some people are, call me a softie. It's okay. If you call me a softie, I ain't even gonna be mad at you, right? I just look at the guy as an old guy. He's got cancer. I'm just trying to be nice, Now, some people are saying, well, Ron, how can you say that when the guy is clearly a racist, when he clearly lied to the American people, when he clearly did all these, I'm not even trying to go there, But what if the this diagnosis was used as a cover, as a shield, to kind of deflect from the unraveling truth about Biden's fitness, judgment, and the White House cover-up surrounding him? Did he really sign all of those pardons? Or did he even know that those pardons were signed? Was an auto pen used? Because just like Canada, where elites manipulated the narrative until it blew up in their face, some are now accusing the Biden administration of doing the exact same thing. And it's not just political commentators that are saying this. Doctors are speaking out. Actually, multiple medical experts, including respected names from Yale Medical School and top urologists, are calling the diagnosis inconceivable in terms of timing. One even said, there's no way you go from clean checkups to stage 4 bone metastasis without signs. That cancer has been developing for years. Years, guys, which means he likely had it while he was serving as president. And yet, there was no press updates. There was no transparency. Instead, the media told us he was healthy as an ox, running circles around his staff. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the man may have been physically and cognitively deteriorating while elites were pulling the strings and not Biden. So you got to ask yourself, was this medical negligence, right? Or was it just a part of something that was far more deliberate to keep a pliable president in place while the machine ran the show? So here's where it all comes together, guys, because the next piece that we have here that we need to talk about, a White House doctor with deep ties to the Biden family, no press access for 4 years, and growing calls for subpoenas and investigations. Guys, we need to talk about the man behind Biden's sealed medical records and whether the American people were intentionally misled, just like Canadians were by Mark Carney. Now, if you thought this whole thing was just a tragic case of late detection, come on, guys, think again. Because behind the scenes, there was a gatekeeper. There was somebody who was supposed to be looking out for the truth and for the health of the most powerful man on earth. Enter Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Joe Biden's personal physician, longtime associate, and handpicked White House doctor. For 4 straight years, Dr. O'Connor never once held a press conference. Not one. That's a little unusual. He quietly released letters, carefully crafted, sanitized, contained. Not a single mention of prostate cancer, not even a hint of it. And now people are asking the obvious question: was Dr. O'Connor protecting a patient or protecting a presidency? So let's be blunt. This wasn't a doctor. This was a Delaware insider, deep in business with the Biden family. And some people are saying he was less of a physician and more of a brand manager. So Jesse Waters on the 5, he said it best: having a 24/7 personal physician isn't always a sign of good care. It's a leading indicator of death, especially when that doctor is more interested in protecting the president's image than his health. And so now, with Biden's condition revealed to be far more serious than we were ever told, Americans are now demanding all sorts of answers. Was Biden tested properly? Were PSA tests ever done? If this cancer was growing for years, what else was ignored or worse, hidden? Like one expert, he put it bluntly: it's insanely unlikely that a sitting U.S. president undergoing regular medical exam, not just some annual physical that regular people go through, right? He's getting regular medical exams, wouldn't have had signs of this cancer. It was either missed, ignored, or deliberately concealed. Which of those do you think it is, guys? Missed, ignored, or clearly deliberately concealed? I want to know what y'all think. But this isn't just about a misdiagnosis. This is about whether the American people were lied to in the exact same way that Canadians were lied or misled by Mark Carney. In both countries, we're now watching the same pattern unfold: promises made, truth suppressed, media silence, and then the reality crashes in, leaving citizens on both sides of the border wondering, well, what else was hidden, right? If you think that's where the similarities end, you're going to want to hear what comes next, all right? Because the timeline between Carney's betrayal and Biden's diagnosis is just a little too close, it's a little too convenient, it's a little too coordinated. So I want to connect the dots between Canada and the United States and ask the question everybody's afraid to say out loud. Was this all just a series of coincidences, or are we looking at a coordinated narrative management campaign by the global elite to distract, deflect, and survive? All right, so let's just call a spade, right? This looks like coordinated chaos, because the timeline here, it's not just suspicious, it's explosive. Look at the facts. You got April 16, 2025, Mark Carney quietly repeals all retaliatory tariffs against the US, right? Betraying both conservatives and progressive voters just 2 weeks before Canada's election. Then just days later, after media headlines exploded over Carney's secret deal and Albertans start talking secession, a massive massive news bomb drops in America. Former President Joe Biden has stage 4 cancer and it's aggressive. Not early stage, not a health update, a life-threatening diagnosis with global implications, and they said it spread to his bones. And just like that, all of a sudden, the Carney betrayal vanishes from the headlines. The anger in Alberta silenced. The questions about Danielle Smith's trip to Mar-a-Lago ignored. The outrage over tariffs and political deception buried under a wave of sympathy. And so maybe I am being too soft. You know, something's going on here, right, guys? And let's be real. This is not the first time that the media has pulled a move like this. All of a sudden, news anchors across the U.S. were telling viewers, now is not the time to scrutinize. We must pause the debate. Biden deserves space. Really? Because just days before, those same media figures, they were tearing into Biden's mental health, asking how the Her tapes and the new book revealed a man completely unfit for office. And now everything's on hold. Why? Why now? Was this an emotional play, a distraction, or something worse? A coordinated effort by legacy media to reset the narrative just as public trust was unraveling on both sides of the border? And what about Canada's media? Did you notice how they handled Carney's tariff betrayal before the election? They didn't. There's no headlines. There's no primetime panels. There was no national debate. Dead silence. The exact same playbook: silence when it matters, spin when it's too late. And now you got to ask, like, was this really about national politics, or is this what global narrative control looks like in 2025? Because when two major leaders, one in Canada, one in US, face career-destroying revelations within just days of each other, and the media in both countries shifts gears to downplay, distract, or deflect, guys, that's not journalism. That's damage control. But of course, it doesn't end there, because there's one name that keeps surfacing behind both of these events. The one figure both Carney and Biden bend the knee to, and that's Donald J. Trump, guys. So we need to talk about Trump's sudden reemergence as the common pressure point, the role that he's played in forcing these elite cracks into the open, and why the globalist class is actually panicking to basically contain this fallout. So now, you know, we've already exposed the eerie, really odd, convenient timing, the media's sudden shift in tone. Let's pull the curtain back just a little bit further, because what we're seeing may not just be a coincidence. It may be the elite distraction playbook. Think about it for a second, right? In both Canada and the United States, the public was lied to, right? Canadians were told Carney would fight Trump's tariffs. He surrendered behind closed doors. Americans were told Biden was sharp, he's healthy, he's strong. He was likely suffering from both cognitive and physical decline for years, right? In both cases, the media ran cover. The timing of damaging revelations was suppressed, and the truth only came out once it could no longer be contained. This isn't just like incompetence. This is a narrative management at a global scale, guys. And who benefits the most from this playbook? Well, of course, it's the global elite. Same network of consultants and bureaucrats, donors and corporate interests who can't stand the idea of populist leaders blowing up their system. Leaders like Donald J. Trump. Because let's be honest, guys, Trump is the common denominator in all of this. In Canada, Carney folded like a lawn chair the second that Trump started putting tariffs pressure back on the table. He caved before the election even started, which is exactly why the betrayal had to be hidden. If Canadians had known, he would have lost. You got to give props to Trump, because he knew all of this during Carney's visit to the White House. And yet Trump didn't blow Carney's cover. In the United States, Biden's team spent years propping up a failing president, not because he was the best option, but because they believed that he was the only person who could beat Trump. Well, now with Trump having beaten him in the polls, well, he would have beat Biden. He ended up beating Kamala Harris. I mean, they're now desperately trying to hold the dam together. So what do? Well, distract, deflect, delay, anything to buy more time, to hide the damage and to suppress the backlash. But here's the thing, out of all of this, they're running out of time. They're running out of moves, because more and more people in both countries, they're waking up. They're realizing the lies run deeper than they ever imagined. And they're starting to ask the questions the elites fear the most. If they lied about the tariffs and they lied about cancer, what else are they hiding? So of course, that brings me to the next thing that I wanted to share with you guys in this whole big, massive fallout, the trust collapse. Now, this calls for criminal accountability, and whether Alberta might actually break away from Canada in our lifetime, you know, that remains to be seen. But stick with me, guys, because what I'm about to share with you guys could change how you see 2025 forever. Now, at this point, it's no longer about politics. It's about trust, and the very real possibility that millions of people in both Canada and the United States have been knowingly deceived by the very institutions sworn to serve them. The damage is already spreading Across Canada, citizens are asking, well, if Carney lied to us about tariffs, what else is he hiding, right? In the US, people are waking up with the sickening realization. Was our president suffering from terminal cancer while in office and nobody told us? Now, for many, this isn't just betrayal. This is a spiritual breaking point. Trust in the media, gone. Trust in the government, I was going to say crumbling, but was it ever there? Trust in medical authorities, shattered. And so now the question is echoing across both countries. Should people be held criminally accountable for this? Because let's not sugarcoat this. These were not honest mistakes. Carney deliberately concealed a public policy reversal that affected Canada's economy and sovereignty. Dr. O'Connor and Biden's team potentially suppressed medical findings that should have been disclosed to every American voter. And here's the hard truth. If you or I withheld a medical diagnosis for a political gain, if you or me were, lied to millions of people to manipulate an election, we would get prosecuted without mercy. They would put us under the jail, right? So why should elites be able to skate by? I can understand why people are getting so pissed off. They're now calling for, there's growing calls for subpoenas to bring Dr. Kevin O'Connor before Congress to demand testimony from Canadian officials about who knew what and when. They also want to finally hold these people to the same standard that they have held us to for decades. Because if we don't, if no one gets punished for these lies, if this all just gets swept under the rug, then what's the message? The message is that if this can slide, this would mean that the truth doesn't matter, right? The public health and economic sovereignty are just pawns in a political game. This is not a free society. That's an elite immunity. And right now, there's one place where that anger is boiling over faster than anywhere else, and it's threatening to redraw the map of North America as we know it. So we need to talk about Alberta for a second here, where trust has just collapsed so hard that secession is no longer a fringe idea. It's mainstream at this point. So going back to Alberta for a second here, because this is where this betrayal hit the hardest. This is where the most explosive response is now taking shape. As we mentioned earlier, Alberta is more than just a province. It's the lifeline of Canada's economy. Over 90% of Canada's energy production is in Alberta, the highest GDP of any province. Alberta, and a population that's fed up with being ignored, taxed, and betrayed. And so now, if we add Carney's tariff betrayal to the fire, add years of anti-energy globalist policies that have crushed Alberta's industries, if we add a political class in Ottawa that treats Alberta like a nuisance rather than a partner, and you end up with the result that we're seeing right now. Polls showing 35% of Albertans rising support secession from Canada. This is not some Twitter hashtag, guys. This isn't a protest on Parliament Hill. This is a serious political movement that's backed by economic power, cultural momentum, and a raw betrayal. And then came the bombshell. Premier Danielle Smith flew to Mar-a-Lago. She didn't just call Justin Trudeau. She didn't go to Ottawa. She went straight to Donald Trump. What does that tell you? Was she laying the groundwork for Alberta to go, its own way? Was this a quiet diplomatic opening with the most powerful voice in the MAGA world? I mean, we don't know for sure what was said behind those closed doors just yet, but we do know this. Something is shifting, and it ain't just Alberta, because in the United States, trust in leadership has collapsed just as hard. The Biden diagnosis, the her tapes, the media cover-up, the physician silence, all of this has left Americans with the same question Albertans are asking. If they lie to us about this, how can we ever trust them again? And this is why the next 12 to 18 months could completely reshape both countries. In Canada, will Alberta break away? In the United States, will voters reject the elites once and for all in 2026? Will leaders like President Trump gain even more ground as the public sees them, as the only ones willing to blow the whistle on their corruption? The truth is this, guys. We're heading into a brand new era. This is one where narrative control is collapsing, where trust in legacy institutions is gone, and where regular people are waking up to the games that they've been trapped in for decades. So was all of this connected? The lies, the timing, the cover-ups? I want y'all to decide in the comments. Let me know, guys. But I think one thing is very clear. The old system is cracking, and the elites are out of time. Now, if you found this breakdown helpful at all, please hit the like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel, because the next chapter, I promise you, it's coming fast, and I'm gonna be here to follow this whole thing, every twist, every leak, every betrayal that they try to bury. Remember, guys, we don't pause, we don't forget, and we are not going back to sleep. Don't forget to give our friends a call or the link in the description down below. Reach out to our friends over at Chapter and see how much money they can save you on your Medicare. Appreciate the support, you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.